Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Phoenix, Arizona, it's time for Phoenix Business Radio, spotlighting the city's best businesses and the people who lead them.
Welcome to Arizona Good Business Radio, connecting leaders together to have conversations about building strong local communities through doing good business. I'm your host, Thomas Barr, Executive Director of Local First Arizona. We are a statewide organization advocating for and celebrating locally owned businesses. We're the largest local business coalition in North America and raise awareness of the benefits of building a strong local economy. Our hopes today are to inspire more companies to do good business by highlighting local companies that are building a better Arizona. Today, I'm joined by the man that makes the Arizona Good Business Summit happen. And we're super excited because you're listening to a special session that highlights partners and speakers of the Arizona Good Business Summit happening January 22nd and 23rd, 2020 at the Phoenix Convention Center in downtown Phoenix. We're going to have over 500 people there, 40 breakout sessions, over 65 speakers. We're super excited to have Daniel Gheorghiu here today, sometimes known as Mr. G or... Correct. Okay, there we go. So Daniel's with Core Media Productions. They do all the audio visual for the Good Business Summit and do an incredible job. Daniel, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your company?
Well, basically, I started a company in 2000. My background, many moons ago, I actually worked as a break dancer, and then I worked in the circus, and I came to the U.S. and got into theater.
So we're going to need to talk about that for sure.
And then I got a degree as a screen director and producer. But then living in Arizona, I realized there's not enough movies being made at the time. So I got into television.
And around what time was that?
That would have been late 90s, in the late 90s. And then I got into television. And then I realized there's not even, that was interesting. But I got, by total accident, I did a job for ESPN where we were doing the Eddie Robinson Awards, which are the best head coach of the year in NCAA football. And that, even though that was a broadcast, you had more of the feel of a corporate event. And I kind of stumbled into it, and I learned I really love doing it. So I now do it all over the country.
So you've done everything from TV, radio, live broadcasting. Have you done any movies?
I did a lot in independent movies back in the day.
Okay.
I worked either behind the scene or as an actor or extra.
Okay.
I've
been an extra in a lot of my college roommates' old movies, which we won't release to the public. So
I'm well aware of how that works. I'm trying to lose everything that's ever.
Hey, we need a guy that gets punched. Why don't you come?
Yeah, I usually, since I had an accent and long hair at the time, I was usually the drug dealer or the murderer.
So funny. So you mentioned, late 90s, not a lot of movies being filmed in Arizona, but there were some famous movies filmed in Arizona. I know of movies like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, which actually was filmed right here in Tempe, and I live 2 miles away from the Circle K that is still there that they warp up into.
Yep.
Were you ever involved in any films that were filmed in Arizona?
The one I was involved in many moons ago was No Code of Conduct.
Okay.
Which was directed by Brett Michaels and... was Charlie Sheen and Martin Sheen. That was shot all at the old racetrack on I-10.
Oh, okay.
And that's where I got to see an interesting side of the news, because they one of the end sequences of the movie, they blew up, or they appeared to blow up that whole old racetrack off of I-10. And in the process, once they cleared the building and they had everybody cleared, so they had the big explosion, the windows breaking in, and
I think I've heard that before.
It was cool for what it was. But what happened is, what they didn't talk about is there were 30 years worth of pigeons that lived in that place.
Yeah, that's right.
They cleared, and they cleared literally about 2-3 feet of pigeon poop.
That's right.
To shoot that movie. And what happened is, once we cleared out and they did the big explosion, a couple of pigeons made it back in the building. So we lost about 6 pigeons or something like that. Okay. And then hard copy showed up, and it was this huge deal about how Martin Sheen used to be an advocate for animals, and now he's involved in a movie that kills pigeons.
Oh my God.
It was an interesting experiencing how the certain news groups back in those days made things blow them out of proportion for what they were.
Just back in the day.
Just back in the day.
Anymore.
That doesn't happen at all now.
So what did you do for the film?
On that one, I was actually just an extra, but I spent
really?
about a week and a half.
So you're
on the
in
set.
that movie?
I am, but I don't know if I made the final cut,
Okay.
but I was one of the drug dealers in the movie that gets killed at some point.
So let me tell you, growing up in Arizona, that is actually hilarious that you were involved with that, because as kids growing up here, we would vacation in San Diego or go to Disneyland or whatever. And I'm sure anybody listening that grew up in Arizona has driven down that freeway going to California or Yuma or somewhere. And that building is just in the middle of nowhere. And we would make up all these crazy stories about what it was and why it was there. And then I think they just demolished it a few years ago. Yeah, so I think it's finally gone.
Okay.
But
it was there forever.
Yeah.
I mean, I came into Arizona in 92, and I remember it being, like you said, in the middle of nowhere and with all these crazy stories. The most realistic one I've heard is at one point was owned by the mob.
Okay.
But beyond that, I really don't know what the story was. And
yeah.
Because obviously somebody spent a lot of money to build that.
Right. Yeah, that's so funny. Well, now we know the true story.
Well, I don't know if I'd go that far.
So let's talk about Core Media Productions and what you do with your business. So you've spent a lot of time in showbiz. You've pretty much seen it all, done all these things, and then you decide to take the leap and do it on your own. What was that process like, and why did you decide to do that?
That's a good question. You know what's interesting is I've always wanted to work in production growing up. I was like the kid that had the big dreams of movies in Hollywood and all that stuff. But as I learned more about production and how it works, I learned there's elements that I never even thought I would enjoy being a part of. Whether it's a live event or a scripted event, I enjoyed being able to tell stories. And I learned that I had a knack for being able to extrapolate what people are trying to accomplish and trying to say and clean it up and make it pretty. So that's how I got into television. Instead of being in film, I started working on documentary style production, where you shoot 4 hours worth of interviews and you come up with a 2.5-minute video. That's really good.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I got into that. But what was interesting is as I grew and I worked for I was a camera op for the Cardinals back when they're at ASU, and then I worked out in different productions. I started seeing things that I'm like, I can do that better. I wanted to direct and produce, but I always believed on making sure you do every job on the set. So then you can, when you ask someone for, hey, I need you to do X, you understand if that's feasible or not. And in doing so, I work with some amazing people, and I came up with a model that made more sense than what everybody else was doing. So that's kind of how I decided to do that. And I'm like, I can do this better than other people I'm working for. So why are they getting the clients when I could be doing it and doing a better job and probably saving my clients money?
Sure.
So that's kind of why I started the company. But then the other thing that turned out to be really amazing is all my friends and people I work with, have won Emmys and Tellys and all these national, international awards. So we teamed up together and helped each other grow together as a team.
Oh, wow.
Which made it really nice. And, the thing I learned overall, just in anything in business, is everyone has access to the technology and tools. The difference is only going to be the people. And it's not just understanding and know how to operate the equipment, but how do you deal with adversity? How do you affect change when you want something to change for the positive? So that's why I decided to start my own thing, and haven't looked back since. And I was young enough and lucky enough to not have many responsibilities when I started. So
sure.
I was a kid. I think I was 20 years old when I started doing it.
Well, from the outside in, I assume that, or at least my perception of show business or any whatever this realm of industry that you would call it, is that it's really competitive, hard to get into. You've really got to know people. Takes a lot of time and stuff. And so I could only imagine that you are surrounded most of the time by a lot of people that cutthroat type of industry where, you're trying to compete in a unfriendly way. And what I've gotten from you as a business owner and entrepreneur yourself is that that's just not how you operate your business at all.
No,
100% transparent from the get-go, and I loved that and working with you this whole time. So
well, I appreciate that. I appreciate you noticing it because yes, there's a lot of companies that are all about the numbers and let's make more money, let's move the gear, I'm old school, for lack of a better term. I believe all my clients and everything I do, I believe in relationships, and I play sports all my life. If I have a vice, it's sports. I watch and play sports. But what I look at it, it's a team sport. If any one of the players on the team has a bad day, we're there to help him pick him up and cover for him, and I'll help him move forward. And hey, okay, it's okay. You made a mistake. Let's fix it. Let's move on.
Yeah.
So I take the approach of a team sport with all of my clients, and I like to, rather than figure out how much money I'm going to make on the job, I'm more interested in what your goal is for your event, and or whatever the project is. If it's a video production or anything else, what is the end goal? And I'm going to help you maximize your results in that. And that may not mean that I'm going to make more money. That may mean I make less money, or that may mean I may pass you on to someone else that's better qualified than I am. I don't believe in being a jack of all trades, a master of none.
Sure.
So I've always been about teaming up with someone and treating it like a partnership. It's like, what can I do to make your event better versus, okay, I'll do whatever you want me to do, and sure, even though I know that you asked me to do something that's unrealistic, that's going to take away from your message.
Yeah. Well, for those of you listening, I mean, the Good Business Summit wouldn't be happening without Daniel. We literally do sit down and go through, okay, what is this? What would this look like? What would that look like? And it's been super, super great working together to just make the event aesthetically feel really good and flow well, make the speakers feel like they've got everything they need and that kind of stuff. So it's been great working together.
Thank you.
What is the difference? I mean, you've named some things before, but what is the big difference in working with you over, whatever the AV company might be that's contracted with a specific venue or who might be referred outside of your company?
I mean, the bottom line, I think, is I focus on my clients' goals, not what my goals are. And I try to understand the bigger picture of any project, and also help my clients. Okay, so do you want to grow this? If we can tweak this just slightly from your original goal to make you grow your event, to help you. And the bottom line is I believe in educating my clients and giving them all the information and the power to make an educated decision. There's pros and cons to anything you do. Whether it's budget or take away from the experience. The bottom line is what I think people forget is AV is not that important until it doesn't work.
Right.
It's not a big of a deal. It's just some guy talking on stage until the microphone stops working.
Right, and then it's awkward.
And then it's like, so you just lost your message because people can't hear it.
Yep.
So it's understanding what, having done it for 20 plus years now, is I know where the potential issues can be, and I plan ahead. It's like, okay, so if this microphone goes down, which can happen, we have a backup standing by.
Right.
If this is, and you have to do that within reason. Budget obviously is going to affect. Can have 3 things of every piece of equipment.
Right.
But with that being said, you can plan ahead and understand what the potential pitfalls are going to be of what you're trying to do.
So for those coming to the event this year, what might be happening in the background or have been planned for this year to make sure that the event runs smoothly and looks great?
We're growing the experience of the main stage for one.
Right.
It's going to look a little different than it did last year.
Okay.
Trying to slowly grow it a little bit.
Yeah.
Would be a better, different experience. I'm trying to say things about without giving it away.
Right. Let's just say it's going to be better than last year.
For sure. Yes, definitely be better. And looking forward to being there and meeting everyone. I would love to meet everyone. And
you're going to be there. That's a big difference.
That is a big difference. Yes, this year I'm actually going to be there.
Right.
Which I just love seeing the people's reaction to what we do.
Sure.
It really is. I compare it to, I used to be in front of the camera and I used to be acting for theater in college. And it's when you're...
As a murderer or drug dealer? No.
well, that too. Or Tiresias from Oedipus Rex.
Okay.
The guy that's blind and yells at Oedipus. But no, it's instant gratification to seeing how people react and experience the event. It's very rewarding.
Sure.
That's one of the things that drive me every day to do this for a living is seeing how people react and more importantly, seeing our clients' events be successful and people having want to be back the following year.
Right. Like the experience being fantastic and knowing that you, because of how you run your business, you contributed to that experience.
Absolutely. Yes.
That's great. That's fantastic. So you, I know, travel around a lot. I don't know if it's internationally or just nationally that you're doing shows and different things like that. What are some of the scale of different events that you do? Because obviously the Business Summit, we know that's a conference. People are going to it. You're going to have microphones and all that kind of stuff. But what is the differentiation of all the different things that you're doing out there across the country?
The thing I was thinking about that driving in today, some of the things I literally cannot talk about because of NDAs.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I have clients that I have for a particular client that I guarantee use their service every single day, but I can't tell you who they are.
Wow.
So
that's fascinating.
So but I do. What's interesting is you have the size of the show sometimes does not equate to what's going on with the show.
Okay.
Yeah, where you can have a really small show, but who's sitting in those chairs are like some of the biggest names in the world in business.
Okay.
So it even though maybe a 300-seater, you're looking at close to half the wealth in this country sitting in those couple chairs.
Wow.
So it just varies, but I've done anything from a few hundred people to 15,000 seaters.
Wow.
I've engineered for a show that took over the entire MGM arena, and we added 19 screens.
Wow.
And I was the video engineer for it. So I had to make all that stuff work. So it varies. It goes from small scale to really grandiose.
Sure. That's cool.
Good.
What are some of the I don't want to say coolest, but what are some of the nicest experiences you've had working with clients? Is there anything that comes to mind as far as like wow, like that was a really great community to come into and deliver something for, besides Phoenix, of course?
Yeah. At the time, I maybe didn't appreciate it as much, but for a while, I used to direct all the cast and crew interviews at Comic-Con.
Oh, really?
For Entertainment Weekly.
And that's San Diego?
San Diego, yeah. I mean, that literally, last I heard, Comic-Con told the city of San Diego, you need to grow your convention space if you want us to stay here.
Wow.
I mean, they have that much pull. But what was interesting is I have never been at the event before, and I got hired to direct the cast and crew interviews.
Okay.
And
those actors and everything?
Yeah, we're talking about like Iron Man, The Hobbit, all of like any movie that with anybody you can think of literally walked into the studio that I was directing. I had to sit them down, and so that was a fun experience. Actually, the funniest part of it, at least for me, is I get Tim Burton said we had a 3-person couch on one side and the host on the other with a monitor in between. And he sits on the far side of the couch, and I have to walk into the studio and ask Tim Burton, do you mind sliding over to the other side of the couch so I have a better 2-shot for my cutaway? And I'm like, I just directed Tim Burton.
Not everybody gets to say that, or probably no one ever gets to say.
So it was really funny too, and he kind of gave me a stare with his crazy hair because I'm sure he messes it up on purpose in the morning.
Did Johnny Depp walk in right after that?
No, Johnny wasn't there.
That's hilarious.
But or the funny thing is back then they had this new show, and it's funny because I work a lot, so I don't really follow shows.
Mm-hmm.
Some show called Game of Thrones came through.
Oh my God.
Like, I don't know who those guys are, and or just like Walking Dead and
Wow.
And all this stuff that I guess these guys are famous. I don't know. Could you sit over there, please, and I'll let you know when we go live.
That's hilarious.
So
that's awesome. Yeah, I could only imagine you are crossing paths, or at least in the same room as some pretty famous people every now and then. So that's cool.
And that's the thing. The funny thing about it is I've never been overly impressed by the famous people. I look at them as anybody else.
Yeah. Totally.
It's like Robert Downey Jr. was there, and he was literally talking trash to us about our setup, and we're going back and forth. Or, we had Zach Galifianakis and Will Ferrell. It was our last interview on our last day. We're beyond exhausted. It becomes a cattle call. He's like, "Could you sit over there?" And,
yeah.
And we were all in tears. We're laughing our butts out between the interview and then him coming as soon as we're done, starting to talk trash to everybody on the set.
That's so
we had
funny.
a blast.
I love hearing those stories of, because you think of celebrities or famous people as just these different entities, right? And they're different, but they're just people. I love when you hear stories about them being just real people, because that's who they are, right?
Yeah,
it's so cool.
And like everyone else, they like to have a good time. They have bad days. They have good days. You know, what we were doing there, we're part of all the junkets. So I'm sure. Okay, here comes the same stupid questions. I cannot talk about the movie because I can't give it away. So I'm going to have some generic question. I'm going to answer it for the 50th time today.
Right.
And I haven't had a meal for like 8 hours now. And so, but at the end of the day, they're humans just going through it. We just deal with it differently.
That's cool.
So
that's super cool. Well, we can't leave today without asking about the breakdancing. So, I mean, I dare to say that's why that is what led you down the path of running this company. Perhaps it was your entry into show business. So let's hear about it.
Well,
and do you still have the moves?
Some. I used to have a soul. Now I'm more of a Caucasian, but no, I can still do a few things here and there, but I'm old, I'm stiff. It's just the joints don't work as well as they used to.
Well, we're still booking entertainment for the evening event of the summit. So
I'll look for somebody for you.
So how'd you get into that?
So I have an older brother. He's 10 years older than me, and he was always athletic. And what's funny is I grew up in Bucharest, Romania, and we listen to pretty much American music. I mean, I very rarely listen to Romanian music. I grew up, Michael Jackson and whatever was going on in the 80s, Queen and Phil Collins and you name it. So my brother decides to get into breakdancing, and we were very close at the time, and he took me everywhere he went. So I'll be sitting there watching them train and go through their routines, and eventually I got bored. So I decided to try to do some of that myself. And then they started seeing me do it. I'm like, well, why don't you be that little kid in front of the dance troupe that leads everybody? So that's a total accident. I got into that because of my brother. And then my brother, that specific troupe, well, the older folks, by older I mean 18 and 20-year-olds, got hired by the Romanian National Circus to perform the following year, to be part of their regular show run, which is about 3 months.
Wow.
And he went there, and after the troupe left, he stayed to do other stuff. And that led to my first job in the circus, where he was on a show, and we were touring with a big tent, which, by the way, made my parents really happy. My dad being a meteorologist and working with satellites, and my mom being a CPA and being in charge of all international tourism in Romania.
What are your kids doing? Oh, they
work in the circus. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, not ideal. But long story short, I ended up getting into the circus as well, and I performed with my brother, and I just enjoyed that part of it. That's how I got into it, and then it got led into me liking the movies. But the thing I'm going to always blame is my parents, because my parents, when I was a kid, they gave me a SLR camera. Not DSLR, but SLR, that had 0 automatic features on it. And that was my dad's old camera. So he gave it to me. He's like, you can shoot, but you can only shoot black and white because he could develop it at his job.
Okay.
So that's how I started taking pictures.
Cool.
And I learned how to, the technical stuff. Eventually, as I got older, I'm like, oh, I actually have to frame a shot now too,
Sure.
not just point in and shoot.
Right. Yeah.
So
that's got to be crazy because you've got to look at, everybody with their phones these days and just be like, you just don't know. Like,
yeah,
you don't know the struggle.
Well, it's that, and or like I had to actually go get my film developed and hope I got that one shot.
Right, right. You didn't get to see your photo for a long time.
Yeah, or I did product shots. I would shoot 4 or 5 rolls of product shots and hope I got about 5 good shots.
Yeah, crazy.
Use split your aperture and tweak things, but that's how. That goes back to why I got into business, because all of these things are tools. And I have used an iPhone for a cutaway in a video, for example, but understanding what the limitation of each tool is and what you can and cannot do is the difference.
Right.
There's a reason the lens on my camera is $10,000 versus my phone that I can snap pictures with.
Right. Totally.
So.
Sure.
But yeah, that's a long answer to a simple question.
No, I enjoyed that very much. Well, thank you for being here, Daniel. We're super excited to have you physically at the Good Business Summit this year. You're going to see Daniel on a panel session about more about his business and working in the community and throughout the country and everything he does with a few other people. And you'll get to see and experience the talents of Core Media Productions at the Good Business Summit. So thank you, Daniel, for being here today.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
So we will see all of you at the Arizona Good Business Summit on January 22nd, 23rd, again at the Phoenix Convention Center. You can check out the agenda that was just announced at localfirstaz.com/good-business. We hope you listening were inspired today by this local leader that is redefining what it means to do good business. We'd like to thank our sponsors today, Conscious Capitalism of Arizona, Max 6, and Phoenix Business RadioX. This is Thomas Barr from Local First AZ reminding you that if we want to build a better Arizona, we need to connect deeply with the local businesses that make us proud to call this place our home.